Hi, this is Aaron Wilson. The Texans' dramatic overhaul of their offensive line took another twist on Friday afternoon when they agreed to terms with gigantic, massive, veteran offensive tackle Trent Brown. 1 year deal worth up to $3 million. Drew Rosenhaus, the agent, tells me that they have agreed to terms and Trent is getting healthy. He tore his patellar tendon last season after starting the first 3 games for the Cincinnati Bengals as a right tackle. The expectation for Trent is that he will be a swing tackle because he can play left tackle or right tackle. And now they've got some interesting decisions to make and some competition brewing here on the offensive line at basically every spot. You can't say, well, this guy, I'm penciling him in. I think he's playing here, with the exception of Cam Robinson. I'm pretty sure he'll be the left tackle, so I feel good about that. But there is going to be open competitions at several positions, and that's something I think we're going to hear from the team as we talk to D'Amico Ryans at the NFL owners meetings coming up, and at some point with Nick Caserio when they have a pre-draft news conference. And the big thing with the Texans is that it's been a total makeover of the offensive line. Very few guys left from last year. And, obviously it was a very disappointing, frustrating thing. And when D'Amico Ryans said at the NFL Scouting Combine that they were hitting the reset button, he meant it. So pay attention to what he says because he may just tell you exactly what is on his mind. He's a straight shooter, and he, saw the deficiencies of the offensive line, and without dunking on these guys too much, they did play hard. They did do some good things. Obviously, they won a division title. They won a playoff game, but it's not what they want. They want to take the next step, and that's his job, is to get this team to the next level. So we'll recap on the offensive line, then we'll get more into Trent Brown and where I see him fitting in, a little bit more about Trent, who is gigantic, just a monster of a tackle. At 6'8", he's weighed as much as 380 pounds. That's what the roster says. So, sometimes he's played at 363, like he did at the University of Florida, and before that at Georgia Military College. But he's only 31 years old, big-time offensive lineman. So let's go back and look a little bit at what's happened here with the offensive line. The biggest move of the offseason, one of the biggest headlines of the entire NFL, has been the trade of Laramie Tunsil, the Pro Bowl left tackle, to the Washington Commanders. So they trade Laramie, creates cap space, and they get draft capital. They do the move early, and then subsequently you've seen them do big deals, top of the market deals for Derek Stingley Jr., 3-year, $90 million extension. The $30 million average in new money makes him the highest paid corner in the NFL. And then they extend Danielle Hunter, kind of a market level increase, and getting his total value up, giving him a $20 million bonus, paying him $32 million this year. And so he joins that $30 million club, and he's up there now with Max Crosby. I expect Trey Hendrickson to get in that category as well. I don't expect anyone to get to the Myles Garrett $40 million a year level, which is like quarterback money. But, hey, these markets are rising. You look at the other things that have happened there. So going from the release of Shaq Mason, doesn't as a post-first June release, they'll then get $8.4 million more cap space. So they'll have more money for perhaps more deals, more extensions, carrying over some of this cap space till next year when they could go on another spending spree. And, the big agendas obviously will be a C.J. Stroud contract extension and a Will Anderson Jr. contract extension. And those deals will be very expensive, probably $55 million APY for C.J. Stroud, and I would expect Will Anderson Jr. to be over $30 million a year in annual average compensation. And these are the long-term contracts, and it'll be interesting to see how the Texans' negotiating strategy goes. But if you look at what they did this year and the way they've been rewarding young players like Nico Collins and also now Derek Stingley Jr., they intend to keep this young core together and try to sustain something. Like Nick said a few years ago when they were a losing program, that he wanted to build something like what they had with the Ravens, the Steelers, winning programs. And he came from the Patriots where he won a bunch of Super Bowl rings, and now trying to do something with the Texans. They've never even been to the AFC Championship game. They still have a lot to prove, but they're trying to address their biggest weakness, the offensive line. So recapping a bit, besides the Tunsil trade and cutting Shaq Mason, trading disappointing former first-round draft pick Kenyon Green to the Philadelphia Eagles and picking up C.J. Gardner-Johnson in exchange, kind of a salary dump for the Eagles. And then they trade for Ed Ingram, former second-round pick, was benched with the Vikings. They add him. Laken Tomlinson, at one point a Pro Bowl lineman, really sort of the end of his career, but now a candidate for a starting job. I think he'll be in competition. I don't know if they're just going to hand him anything. They restructured Titus Howard. Not a pay cut, a restructure. Gave him a $14.33 million signing bonus with a conversion of his salary and added a voidable year of $30 million in 2029. This is the last year of his contract. You know, it's been said to me, you know, I'm not reporting this, I'm just saying, now that they've done this, they've paid him the money. If they were to trade him, it's a very tradable contract because what they're picking up is the minimum base salary and then the void years. So the acceleration, yeah, the Texans would face some, but you know, if they wanted to try to pick him up, you know, get some draft capital in exchange for a Titus Howard, they certainly could do that. I think it would leave them a bit thin at a couple of positions, including right tackle and the guard spot, and he's capable of starting at either. So we'll see how they go forward with Titus Howard. I think that more than likely he's in the plans. And we'll see. Plans can change, and you know, kind of noticed plans are pretty fluid around the Texans. At one point, they were thinking about him at left tackle, then they make another move. As they get more money, they get more deals done. They have more flexibility, and you know they've restructured Azeez Al-Shaair and Nico Collins and Titus Howard, and they've adjusted Denico Autry's contract as well. So a lot going on with the offensive line, and about the only spots they haven't addressed are center. And, you know, all these guys, that's one position they don't play. So Trent, I'm told the recovery is going well from the patellar tendon tear. I expect him to be ready for training camp. And he is one of the biggest offensive linemen in the history of the NFL since Orlando Brown Sr., who I covered when I was covering the Baltimore Ravens. This is about as big as Zeus. That was his nickname. So, yeah, this is a big, big offensive lineman. And there's some ties, connections that we'll go over a little bit here. You know, he was a starter for the Patriots twice. And when he was there on a Super Bowl winning squad, he overlapped with Nick Caserio, the general manager, and also the Texans' new offense coordinator, Nick Caley. And so Nick was a tight ends coach, so he worked with him. And the offensive line coach, Cole Popovich, who's an offensive assistant when, you know, Trent was there and he was, you know, working with the offensive line. So this is with Super Bowl winning team and, you know, playing for Bill Belichick, of course. So, you know, this is a swing tackle. He can be a starting right tackle. He can also play left tackle. And, you know, this reminds me a little bit like when they traded for Marcus Cannon. But in the case of Trent, I think he still plays at a high level where I think Marcus, you know, was kind of done. But they made that move hoping, you know, for something with him. So he's started 96 of 103 career games, and he's also played guard, but he'll play tackle here. And you think about, you know, everything with him. The only real drawback, he's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of physicality. He's a savvy blocker with good technique. Uses his hands very well. You really don't want to have this guy getting his hands on you. He can rough you up. He can kind of manhandle you. And, you know, as they, you know, kind of hit the reset button here, the big thing is durability. And so I think, yeah, he has only played every regular season game once in the past 6 years. So that is, you know, not great durability. But that's not what they're looking for here. They're looking for a player that is a great insurance policy at both tackle spots. And really, it reminds me a little more, not of Cannon, but of George Fant, where he's still a viable starter. And he was solid for the Bengals until, you know, obviously he got hurt. So you get, you know, a big guy with experience, with leadership, and they're looking for a physical guy. No one more physical than Trent Brown, not someone you want to mess with, a rough, tough customer there at the line of scrimmage. He can anchor. He can wall you off. He's got gigantic heavy hands that, once he gets his hands on you and you're a pass rusher, he can just ride you up the field, or he can slam you on the ground. And a lot of players do not like playing against him. Obviously, with him being taller, just it's a little tougher for him to gain leverage against shorter edge rushers. But he doesn't embarrass himself out there. He can move his feet well. He's got good technique, and he is very well coached. And he even has a connection to DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco had started his coaching career with the 49ers when Trent Brown played for the Niners before joining the Las Vegas Raiders, I should say Oakland Raiders at that time. And that was the one time he made the Pro Bowl. That was in 2019. And so he made the Pro Bowl. And then later, he heads to the New England Patriots. And he's played for the Patriots. He's played for the Bengals. And he's an experienced lineman. So this is another good move. And it didn't cost much, unlike the Cam Robinson thing where it cost up to $14.5 million with a base value of $12 million. They get Trent Brown at a relative bargain because of the injury. So Nick Caserio comes up with another tackle, 2 tackles in 1 week. And what this means for the draft, they have flexibility. They're not locked in now necessarily to a tackle in the first round, which is the way it was starting to look. But now, if you do want to draft one, maybe you don't have to play them right away. So I look at this as a plus, and makes me think a little about the wide receiver position. In my other video, please check it out. Talking about Matthew Golden, the Texas wide receiver that visited the Texans on Wednesday. And also they had visits with East Carolina corner Siobhan Revelle on Friday, and they have a visit scheduled with Oregon left tackle Josh Connerly Jr. I expect them to talk to several of the best linemen, the Kelvin Bankses, the Josh Simmons. So we'll see, do they get those guys on the visit schedule too? And I'd be remiss not to mention this, a little bit of a connection with Siobhan Revelle. Don't talk much about my football career. I was an all-Catholic League defensive player, played linebacker and defensive line at St. John's High School in Washington, D.C. Most famous alum we have is Kevin Plank, the Under Armour founder. That's why I wear a lot of Under Armour, because I support that brand. From the D.C., Maryland area, and Kevin was my teammate. We won a championship. We beat them at the Catholic. And then I walked on to East Carolina. I was an invited walk-on. My position coach was Chuck Pagano. And so, back when I was younger and in good shape, I was a linebacker, kind of a crash dummy out there throwing my body around. But yeah, I'm a former Pirate, just like East Carolina corner Siobhan Revelle, who visited the Texans. Always nice to see another Pirate visiting, or possibly being on the Texans radar. I support ECU football. Very proud of the program and all the great things that they've done over the years. So yeah, it's cool to see him. He's a comeback player. He's coming back from a torn ACL, and he's an outstanding long corner. And I think he's someone that can help the Texans or any team should they draft him. And at one point he was getting some first-round buzz. We'll see. Does he still go in the first round? Recovery's going well. And yeah, I forgot to mention that in the other video. But yeah, I wanted to kind of cross-promote the videos with a separate one that I did on draft visits. And there's a nice big picture of Matthew Gold and a couple of pictures of Matt there for that one. So, and thumbnails, courtesy of my wife Shannon. She makes these thumbnails and has some fun doing that. I pick out the photos and the headlines, and she kind of helps me design all this stuff, and it's fun. It's a family project, this YouTube channel. So yeah, please support the channel. Check us out here. And of course, I'm on Twitter /X, Aaron Wilson _NFL. And I'm on Instagram, Aaron Wilson 7128. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads. And most of all, on television at KPRC2 with Randy McElroy and R. Alexander. And at www.click2houston.com. And all of my content is free. No subscriptions. They are available, obviously. You can sign up if you want to. You can, if you want to support this channel financially, that's, of course, welcome. But this, just to be a subscriber, is absolutely 1,000% free. So just click the button and help me grow the channel. And that encourages me to know that you guys are out there. I see all the comments. I appreciate all the support. And let's grow it together. We're getting closer and closer to 5,000 subscribers. And I hope there's a day, within this year, maybe we're talking about having 10,000. And I don't want to put any ceiling on it. I think this can be a great channel. I have some plans for trying to continue to improve it. I know some of you guys, want, more of this, more of that. Working on it. So it is a work in progress. We'll continue to grow with the consistency and having the videos. And I appreciate all of you guys listening and enjoy these conversations. And until next time, keep it tuned. Obviously, the Texans offseason has been interesting, to say the least. A lot of activity. Are they a ton better? I don't know. I think we'll find out when they put the pads on. But on paper, they look like they've improved in some areas to me. And certainly with the offensive line, it's a shift. And it's a shift in the vision of Nick Caley, Cole Popovich, Nick Caserio, D'Amico Ryans, those four men, what they see for the offensive line. And the word competition, you're probably going to get tired of hearing about that. And we'll see. It'll be very interesting to see, how do they line up? What's the first five when they get to training camp in July? And we'll be there for that and every other step of the offseason, including the owners' meetings coming up. So I don't know if you can expect D'Amico Ryans to say, well, yeah, this is my projected five. He's not doing that. He's not naming starters. He's never been like that. So don't expect him necessarily to say that. But reading between the lines, I think it's Cam Robinson, left tackle. Left guard, Titus Howard or Laken Tomlinson. Center for now, Jarrett Patterson. I would put Juice Scruggs in front of Ed Ingram at right guard. And then at right tackle, Blake Fisher with Trent Brown backing him up. And then Titus Howard has the flexibility to play guard or either tackle spot. And, we talked a little bit about Titus, and yeah, it is a tradable contract. But I think they're a better offensive line with Titus than without him. And I think he can have a resurgent season. And he's got a lot to play for. He's in the final year of his contract. So to me, jettisoning everyone, I think that might be too much change. They've already made a lot of changes. Keep some of the guys have some familiarity with this offense. So we'll see. Titus Howard, Jarrett Patterson, Juice Scruggs, I think they'll be a part of this in one way or another. So we'll see who's the starter, who's the backup, and a lot more to be continued as we watch the offensive line. And as they say, the game of football is won in the trenches. And so watch the offensive line. And, if they'd had better offensive line play, I think they would have made the AFC Championship game. I don't know if they would have won the AFC Championship game and gone to the Super Bowl, but they were good enough to beat the Chiefs in many areas, certainly not on special teams, certainly not the offensive line, in that cold night at Arrowhead Stadium. But we'll see. They're determined to improve and try to go somewhere this organization has never gone before. Only team in the AFC that's never been to the AFC Championship game, and bears repeating, and I've said it many times, you really can't consider yourself a very successful organization until you are playing well in these big games in the playoffs. 0-6 now in the AFC divisional round, but moves like today, getting Trent Brown, little brick-by-brick moves as they try to get better in their greatest area of concern, the offensive line. So we're going to see what happens. Obviously, left tackle weakened a bit by the Laramie Tunsil trade, but they'll try to build around him. And really, I think they need the cohesiveness. They need to have a strong five as much as anything. It's not necessarily where you have so much investment in one player. You can spread it across the money. You follow the money. You see kind of now a little more equitable distribution of those financial resources and draft capital across the offensive line. So until our next conversation, look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks for your time.